Werner, right? Werner, right? Vinci, right? I was
Are you taping?
I am.
This
is alright.
Ethan Gilsdorf,
Hi.
author of Fantasy
Ellis?
Freaks
No.
and
Danny. This is Danny.
Oh, Danny.
Other friend.
Yeah, I have various camera people.
This is great. You have a whole entourage then.
Yeah, it's gone very well. But thank you so much for telling me about this.
Good.
It's
Well,
great. And
there's 2 or 3 of these. I mean, I don't know how many more things you're going to be doing tonight when you graduate, but I feel like every 2 or 3 months or something of this size in Boston or Boston area, you know, some kind of fantasy convention or science fiction thing.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it made me think about whether you know about the sort of robot community. You know about that? People who are doing sort of hacking and creating robots and stuff. There's a group in Somerville that does it.
I feel like Ellis has mentioned it.
Yeah.
Ellis is really the fantasy buff.
Yeah.
He knows all about these things. And I am the newbie in the situation, but I'm enjoying myself quite a bit.
So who else have you talked to behind
Well, we went to a few forums today that we didn't get to film, and we were about to go upstairs and try to interview Ken Schroeder.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we just kind of we spent like an hour with Werner today, and he explained everything about the singularity and stuff. So
that's his specialty, right?
Yeah, that's his shtick. He came up with that. All these people came after him, and so yeah.
I found what he was talking about during the panel that I was moderating good, but I didn't like it at all. Maybe because I'm not that much of a hardcore science fiction person.
Yeah.
I probably should have stopped the meeting and sort of explained it to people in the audience. But then I felt like I would be revealing that I wasn't nearly as much of a geek as people thought I was if I was saying, wait a minute, I don't know what this is about, you know, so I don't know. There's a whole issue of geek cred, you know, in this business. Like, do you really know your stuff? And
right.
In the divide between fantasy and science fiction, I know a fair amount about the fantasy side. I'm not really a big science fiction fan the same way that I was probably 25 years ago, so it's one of the things that came up when I was writing my book. People would sort of say, who are you? Like, why are you asking me these questions? And I would say, well, I used to play D&D, Israel even told me, and they're like, okay, all right, you're cool.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, you're going to make fun of us. Because so many, I mean, maybe you've had this problem already, I don't know, maybe you might in the future, I don't know how many programs you've done, but people, particularly in the science fiction, fantasy, fandom communities, I think that they feel like, in the past, it's so easy to make fun of them, and there's been really crappy news stories done, and very sensationalized news stories about, you know, D&D as Satan worship, or, you know, isn't it funny these people are dressed up in costume and run around with wooden swords, you know, that kind of stuff, that kind of journalism, which is, you know, is pretty shitty in the end.
Right.
It's more just sort of light. It doesn't really take it seriously, so.
Well, I feel like reading your book before really delving into all of this for me was very enlightening to just like the whole community and kind of getting a snapshot of like, oh, this is who these people are. You know, most of the people I've met since I've been here have been very charming, gregarious, friendly, totally down to earth. You know, and I really got that idea from your book, and
that's definitely quirky. I mean, what's interesting about people coming to these conventions, you can tell that they're very passionate about these ideas, and the double standard that I see in the culture is that it's okay to be passionate about sports, basketball, baseball, and kind of be fanatical, and people can look in their eyes where they're like, I have to tell you about this thing I know, you know. But if you're into gaming, or if you're into, you know, whatever, fantasy art, or, you know, it's just, you know, it's starting to change, which, I mean, I know you read the book, so you know that it's one of my sort of themes in the book, is that it's getting better, and I think people are more accepting. I think the culture is more accepting. People are accepting of gay and lesbians and transgender people. People are accepting more of people from their, you know, ethnic backgrounds and races. In general, I think the culture is becoming more accepting.
Yeah.
But there's still a ways to go.
Well, I think in your book, and I think in some stories that I've read recently, you know, even the term geek in society is changing. You know,
absolutely.
Now it's, you know, anything geek. You know, tech geek. You know, smart geek.
Wine geek, film geek.
Wine geek, film geek.
Fixed gear, bicycle geek. I mean, all these things. Yeah, and it's sort of like this badge of honor now. You can say, you know, this is something that I do, and I have my own little subculture, and we've kind of banded together, and we know this thing, and we have specialized knowledge that these people don't know about, you know.
Yeah, and
like
I
the
think
bike messengers or something like that. Think of them. I mean, that's another good example of a weird subculture.
Well, I feel like what's interesting is all these forums and all of these authors, the ideas are very modern and very new, and like with all this new technology, you know, the iPad comes out and somebody's already written a science fiction book with that technology involved, so they have their ideas about it, and I feel like that's part of it too, is that all of a sudden people are like, well, maybe there are some answers here that, you know, other things really aren't giving us.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, in a way, certainly the science fiction community, less so the fantasy community, because the fantasy is very backward-looking, for the most part, kind of romantic and sort of more nostalgic about the way things might have been in the past, where science fiction is more forward-looking.
Yeah.
It's oftentimes very paranoid. Like in the future, the robots will control everything, and you know, we will have to kill the robot in order for humanity to survive.
Right.
But there's a lot of writers who've had very, you know, amazingly brilliant forecasts of what the future might offer, and some of the stuff that we're seeing now today, of course, people have already thought about it and been waiting.
Right.
When is the technology going to catch up with our imagination so we can have it?
Yeah.
The part that's often missing is the human aspect of it. Well, just because we can make this technology, does that mean that we should?
Right.
Or people know what to do with it?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I think it was what Werner said in the panel the other day about, you know, people talk about all this, you know, virtual reality and how it might distract us and make us less be able to communicate with each other. Well, what about texting? I mean, that's, in my view, cell phones have wrecked, you know, the ability for people to sit down and have a conversation, because people are constantly distracted and they're like checking their cell phones when they should be focused on the person who's really in front of them.
Right.
I think humans are pretty easily distractible.
Yeah.
We're kind of shallow in that way. Like, oh, someone else might be out there thinking of me or loving me, or you know, I want to like see what they're thinking of me. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Humans are funny, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and these humans are great. You know? I mean, it's absolutely great. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
On the street interview here.
Great. Let's more of a conversation.